Hello everyone, I hope you guys are having a great day today. So recently a survey has been going around on the internet. Blizzard has been asking some questions about quality of life changes and if we are interested in any kind of class balancing and rune word balancing. I did not get this survey myself, I simply saw it online. So I just want to give my thoughts on each question here in this video. I'd love to hear your comments down below on what you think as well. If Blizzard happens to come across my humble, small YouTube channel, they will get, obviously, our thoughts on each one, whether it's mine in the video itself or yours in the comments below. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So, would the following quality of life changes in Diablo 2 Resurrected be good or bad for the game? The first one here is toggle to show dropped loot. So currently in Diablo 2, the only way you can see loot when it's on the ground is if you hold the Alt key. Some players don't like having to constantly hold the Alt key. They want to have a toggle option to where it always shows loot. I think this is neutral for me. I don't care either way. I wouldn't use it personally. I like holding Alt, and I also like seeing the screen when I don't want to see loot. So if it's a toggleable option and not forced, I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't see how it ruins the game. So overall, I'm neutral on this. Maybe good if it's an extra feature for players that want it, but overall, I'm neutral. Number 2, hide certain gear slots like helmets. So I guess Blizzard has seen that players don't like the way the new cap looks or the new mask or certain items. Maybe they're taking inspiration from World of Warcraft. Classic WoW, for example. You could actually choose to hide your helmet or your cloak. I think this is fine. I don't really care too much for it. Again, I'm neutral on this. I would say my brother probably thinks this is very good because my brother likes to take strength charms and equip gear. And if you aren't familiar with Diablo 2, if your gear can only be equipped when you have enough strength through charms, this is what's known as strength bugged. So when you're equipping your Enigma and everything, you will actually look like a level 1 paladin or whatever class you're playing to everyone else, but you do have your Enigma and armor on. But because the only way you have it on is through strength charms, it bugs out and everyone else doesn't see it equipped on you. So you look like a level 1 naked character. And my brother loves to do this with his hammered in for whatever reason, so I think he thinks this is very good. I can guess on that, but overall I'm neutral with it. Assign skills to other keys. I'm assuming this is basically in order to cast a spell. So currently in Diablo 2, when you are using an ability, you have to either left click or right click. I think players are asking for the ability to use other keys to cast a spell. I would say this is bad. It kind of changes the gameplay. Diablo 2 to me is a left click, right click game. So assuming assigning skills to other keys, this is what this means. I think that's a bad idea. If this is simply being able to change, like say, switching to a skill, like currently in Diablo 2 by default, it's F1 to F8. You can already change that to like X and G. I can make my town portals with the X key. So I'm assuming it's not that because it's already in the game. So if I'm correct and it's the ability to cast a spell with whatever keybind, I think that might be changing the game too much. So I'm actually bad on that. Assuming it's the way I'm picturing it, I'm bad on that. But if it doesn't change the game drastically, then I think I'm neutral as usual. Improved mercenary AI pathfinding. I'm not really sure exactly what this is referencing, but if I had to make two guesses, one, mercenaries sometimes get stuck, and the only way to get them out of being stuck is if you run far enough away to where they teleport back to you. Another one is sometimes they don't attack properly, they just randomly wander around. If it's fixing those, I don't think that's that big of a deal. Mercenaries aren't the biggest thing in PvP or anything like that, so improved mercenary AI pathfinding, I can't see too much of a big deal out of that. I noticed it says mercenary AI pathfinding, so I'm assuming this doesn't count summons. So if that's the case, even more so, I think it's fine if it's mercenary only. So overall, I would say neutral. Again, I don't care if it's in, I don't care if it's out. If it's there, it's a nice surprise, I guess. But I'm starting to see a pattern here where I'm just overall neutral with most of these quality of life changes. Heraldric Cube Recipe Book. I gotta say, this is very good. Currently, right now, the only way to remember the Heraldric Cube recipes is either one, you actually remember, or two, you have to pop up a third-party website like Ariat Summit, and it will give you all of the cube recipes, upgrading runes, 3 chip gems, and a magic item gives you another reroll of that same magic item. There's a ton of different recipes out there, but it's impossible to remember all of them unless you've played for a very long time. So seeing a Herodric Cube recipe book in the game itself, I don't see anything wrong with that. I see only good things, since otherwise you have to go to a third-party website. So very good from me. Dedicated charm inventory. This is a very big discussion online right now and has been ever since Resurrected got announced, because before Resurrected was announced, everyone was playing Project Diablo 2. And I gotta say, I'm arguably neutral on this. So a charm inventory, I'm fine with it because I love inventory space. At the same time, I don't know if it's really a good idea. I've seen some arguments against it. Some people think that inventory Tetris is part of the game. Some people think that charms, the whole purpose of them is to trade power in exchange, or to trade inventory space in exchange for power. You have to balance that out. But we've seen in endgame characters, they will have an entire inventory of charms, and they would have 4 slots left for their Herodric Cube, and whenever they find something, they put it in the cube and identify it. I think it's kind of a weird system. I think the one way I could see this possibly doing okay, if they were to implement this, is that if they make the inventory charm just like Project Diablo 2, where it's double the inventory space. However, items that are not charms cannot go in the charm inventory section. In Project Diablo 2, even though it's a charm inventory, you can put anything you want there. So technically you have double the inventory space. I don't think it should be that way. I think it should be only charms can go in there, and charms only work in there. That way, your charms only work in there, and you still have limited inventory space. If it works that way, I could see this being okay. The only complaint really from players I could see is that anyone that agrees with that point earlier about, oh, you should be sacrificing inventory space in exchange for power, that's how it balances out. Anyone that's got that kind of stance, they would still disagree either way. But I think that might be a good middle ground, is charm inventory. No items can go in it, only charms can go in there, and only charms work the only way charms can work is in there. I think that works, perfect middle ground. Otherwise, honestly, I don't care if it's in the game or not. Inventory space doesn't bother me too much. The whole charm inventory thing, I don't have a stake in that. I'm neutral once again. Additional hotbar on the interface for skills. I'm assuming this is similar to the controller. I don't know if you guys have seen, I'm sure you have. When you have a controller for Diablo 2, you can see all of your skills, or like 5 of them on the UI. But if you play with a mouse and keyboard, you can only see 2 skills at a time on your UI, on your left click and on your right click. So assuming the additional hotbar is talking about how you can see all your skills at once, I don't think it's going to change gameplay that much. I'm fine with it either way. Once again, I know I'm a middle ground person. I apologize. I'm neutral on this. Personally, maybe I'm actually leaning towards bad, because if you can actually switch between them all, no problem, that might be a problem. Because paladins, for example, have to have an aura on their right click at all times. Otherwise, they don't get the benefit of the aura. So because of this, paladins have an aura all the time on the right click, and all of their attacking skills are on the left click. So I can see why that would be a problem to some players, and they want that changed. But if you're changing that gameplay, you're changing how a paladin plays for 20 years. So maybe it's bad if it changes the gameplay itself. But if it's simply a display so you remember what skills you have, I don't know if that's necessarily a big deal. It's more of the direct gameplay change, if there is any. That's where my main concern is. Tooltip to show range of stats. So if you guys, again, are familiar with Project Diablo 2, whenever you find a unique, let's use the Nagel Ring, for example. When you find it, it has the range of either 15% magic find up to 30% magic find. So if you find one and it's 22% magic find, it will tell you the range that it could be. Oh man, it can go up to 30. I didn't get a 30%. Oh man, I got a 16% Nagel and apparently the lowest is 15. This is a terrible find. So seeing the range of all those stats on that item is probably good for the game. I see nothing wrong with that. If they decide to implement that, I think it's nothing but good. I would even argue very good. It's always great to know when you find an item how exactly good it is, what the range is, what exactly changes on it. I got no problems with that. I would vote very good on that. The next survey question here is stackable gems and runes. This is a very hot topic on the forums as well. It's, again, another Project Diablo 2 feature. Personally, I think it changes the game too much. I know people will just use the excuse that, oh, we can just mule. But there's just something about stacking 50 perfect gems and 50 flawless gems and 50 low runes into one single square in your stash. I don't know. It feels kind of weird to me. I would say bad, but honestly, if it did get implemented into the game, it's not going to bother me. I just would prefer it's not in the game, but if it's there, it doesn't really bother me. So I would almost argue neutral, leaning towards bad on this. The next feature suggested is display a clock. This is going way too far. Why do we need a clock in the game? No one needs to tell time. You should have a clock beside you. Why would they ask us if it's okay to add a clock to the game? Okay, but let's be serious here now. Displaying a clock is perfectly fine. Like, whatever. Honestly, I think it's about time that they add a clock into the game, honestly. So I would say good. AutoStore Inventory. So I guess if you're trying to maybe put your charms in a corner, or you have so many items that you're full in the inventory, you're trying to make space for another item to pick up, you just hit the AutoStore Inventory, so it makes it easier. I mean, personally, I don't think it's really necessary. I would say bad, simply because it's just another thing that complicates, or I don't know. Diablo 2 is a simple game. I don't think an AutoStore Inventory is really necessary. I don't think it changes the game a whole lot, but again, I don't think it's that big of a deal. Do we really need an AutoStore Inventory? I guess I'm neutral, but overall, I think it's just kind of pointless to work on something like that when there's other things that could use attention. Otherwise, I think it's just an unnecessary feature. And finally, we have buff timers. So, call to arms or barbarian battle orders, that kind of stuff. If you want to know how long it's on you. So, for example, I think you can get like 5 minutes on a battle orders, maybe longer. Maybe there's 2 minutes left on it, and you want to know that, so you know exactly when to battle orders again. I don't see a big deal with buff timers. Again, I think it's like the AutoStore Inventory, where it's not really necessary. Most people battle orders every time they take a waypoint, so I mean, I don't think buff timers is really necessary, but if it's there, not a big deal. So once again, I'm neutral on this. So overall, those are my thoughts on the quality of life changes. It seems to be that I'm mostly neutral when it comes to these changes. I guess because they don't really implement the game, or they don't really change the game too much. And if it's there, it's for other people, not really for me. If it's not there, it doesn't bother me. So like for most cases of these quality of life changes, I'm not really that excited for them. Like the auto gold pickup, that was great. I was happy about that. The extra stash space and the shared stash, ecstatic about that. But most of these quality of life changes, I honestly don't really care either way. Some of them are good. I'm neutral overall, whether they make it in or not. But the real meat and potatoes of this video is the next section. The survey also asked us, how interested are you in the following potential changes to Diablo 2 Resurrected as part of a seasonal patch? For example, changes that will apply to the given season. So, they have two here. Buffing underused skills and buffing underused rune words. So there's one thing I want to talk about here real quick. It'll take just a few seconds. My biggest worry with changes this whole time is that they will listen to players demanding they nerf teleport, nerf enigma, nerf grief, nerf all these different rune words. And if they go and touch skills I've enjoyed for the last 20 years, specifically teleport and enigma, I will wish that they never did a remaster in the first place. I am not here to see less fun in the game. I am only here to see more fun in the game. So the fact that this survey here is saying specifically buffing underused skills and rune words and not nerfing, I think this is good. Some players will say, oh, it makes the game easier. Well, it only makes the game easier if you're buffing the already strong skills. If you're making Frozen Orb even better, or Blizzard even better, yeah, you're making the game easier. But if you're buffing, like, I don't know, Armageddon or Volcano or Rabies or something, like, skills that are just never really used, if you're buffing those, it's not really making the game easier. It's just making more viable builds. I mean, the game can't get any easier than another Hammerden or Blizzard Sorceress. So, like, I don't see any problem necessarily with buffing some of the underused skills. Heaven forbid we see Arctic Blast actually okay, right? So, buffing underused skills, I think, isn't that big of a deal if they know what they're doing. Just don't nerf and ruin current fun skills. That's it. That's my only concern. In terms of rune words, it depends on what ones they choose to buff, because, like, honestly, I can't even think of a single one that I might want to buff, honestly. But I'm sure there is. If I went and looked through the rune word page, there might be a couple. It's hard to say, like, because we already have really powerful rune words as it is, like Spirit Sword, Spirit Shield. Lore is pretty decent. Stealth is insane. If anything, I would say buff melee rune words. So like melee has some serious trouble before they get Breath of the Dying and stuff. Some of those rune words are just nearly impossible to get by yourself. I could see like some melee buffs in regards to rune words, but if I'm being honest here, I would rather see the skills themselves get buffed, which we just kind of talked about there a second ago. Buffing underused skills. So I would say leave rune words alone and focus on skills first. Maybe bring back like classic Barbarian Whirlwind. That might be too much. I don't know what your guys' thoughts are on that. Seeing Double Throw, for example, seeing Warcry actually do damage. Like personally, I know people call him a singer barb. I prefer to call them a bardarian because a bard, right? Their music is so bad it deals damage, or their singing is so bad. But overall, I would love to see other builds. So I would not touch rune words just yet. I would deal with the skills first if they were to do this and go through with it. Just again, do not nerf stuff that's already fun. I've seen people asking for a cooldown on teleport, reducing hammer damage by 50%. It's like, my brother plays a Hammered and he loves the Hammered in build. If you nerf that, he's gonna wish that remaster never came out. I'm a Sorceress player. It's not that I love Blizzard. Lightning is actually my favorite build. I enjoy Lightning a lot, but I need Infinity first. I would rather just see underused skills buffed, not current stuff nerfed. So overall, that's the survey. That's the questions, my thoughts on them. I'd love to hear your comments down below. As always, guys, thank you so much for sticking around. And let's see what they have planned. Until then, guys, I'll see you on my next video.